It's 11:40 p.m. In the freezing dark of the North Atlantic, a ship is racing forward at full speed. Her name is Titanic, the largest, most luxurious, and by popular claim, the safest ship ever built. Newspapers had already declared her unsinkable. But at that exact moment, something surfaces out of the darkness. Over the next 2.5 hours, more than 1,500 people would lose their lives. So how does a ship that was supposedly impossible to sink actually go down? The answer isn't one single mistake. It's a chain of small decisions, each one reasonable on its own, that added up to one of the deadliest disasters in maritime history.
In the early 1900s, two major shipping companies were locked in a quiet rivalry to dominate the Atlantic crossing: Britain's White Star Line and its rival, Cunard.
While Cunard chased speed records, White Star Line took a different approach, building the largest, most luxurious ships the world had ever seen. That ambition gave birth to three massive ocean liners: Olympic, Titanic, and Britannic. Titanic was built at the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Belfast. She stretched over 880 feet long and weighed more than 46,000 tons. She was equipped with 16 major watertight compartments, engineered so that if one section flooded, the rest of the ship would remain safe.
That engineering confidence is exactly where the press got the idea to call her unsinkable, a phrase the company itself never officially claimed, but one the public quickly ran with.
On April 10, 1912, Titanic set sail from Southampton, England, bound for New York. On board were roughly 2,200 passengers and crew, wealthy industrialists sharing the same ship as poor immigrants chasing a new life in America. Same vessel, completely different worlds. Throughout the day on April 14th, Titanic's radio operators received multiple ice warnings from nearby ships, at least 6 separate alerts. But the ship never slowed down. Captain Edward Smith was a veteran officer with nearly 40 years at sea. But in the maritime culture of the time, slowing down for ice warnings simply wasn't standard practice. Ships assumed that with clear visibility, there would be enough time to steer around danger. That overconfidence was the first crack in the chain. 2 lookouts were stationed in the crow's nest that night, but they had no binoculars. The key to the locker where they were stored had left the ship with an officer who disembarked before departure. So in the dark, on a night when the ocean was unusually calm, the lookouts had to rely on the naked eye.
Without waves breaking against its base, an iceberg becomes almost invisible until it's dangerously close.
At 11:40 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet spotted an iceberg dead ahead. The alarm was raised and the officer on watch, "Stop engines! Turn the ship!" ordered the ship to turn and the engines to stop.
But given Titanic's size and speed, a full course correction wasn't possible in time.
She didn't hit the iceberg head-on. She scraped along its side. And that turned out to be the worst possible outcome. A direct hit would have crumpled the bow and likely damaged only 1 or 2 compartments, keeping the ship afloat. Instead, the glancing blow tore a long gash below the waterline, damaging several compartments at once. This is the single most important engineering detail in the whole disaster. Titanic's watertight compartments weren't sealed all the way to the top. The walls only rose to a certain height.
The ship was designed under the assumption that no more than 2 compartments would ever flood at once.
But the iceberg damaged 6.
As water filled one compartment, it simply spilled over the top of the internal walls into the next one.
Much like water overflowing between the sections of an ice cube tray.
That one design limitation sealed the ship's fate.
Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, while the ship needed at least 64 to accommodate everyone on board. At the time, lifeboat requirements were based on a ship's tonnage, not its passenger capacity.
A regulation that hadn't caught up with the reality of massive modern ocean liners.
Making matters worse, on the night of the sinking, many lifeboats were launched, only partially filled.
Because crew members weren't confident the boats could safely hold their full rated weight.
As a result, hundreds of seats that could have saved lives went into the water empty. A ship called the Californian was just a few miles away when Titanic went down. Titanic's crew fired distress rockets into the sky, and the Californian's crew saw them, but misread them as fireworks from some kind of celebration. Meanwhile, the Californian's radio operator had already gone off duty and was asleep. So Titanic's distress calls went completely unheard. Help was close enough to see, yet still impossibly out of reach. Behind the statistics are the stories that make this tragedy real. First-class passengers survived at dramatically higher rates than third-class passengers.
Because third-class cabins were located deep in the lower decks, farthest from the lifeboats, and in many cases, gates and barriers slowed their path to the upper deck.
The ship's band famously kept playing music to calm the panic on deck. And not a single member of the band survived.
Some families chose to stay together rather than separate, even knowing lifeboats were prioritizing women and children first. These individual choices show exactly how one structural failure translated into thousands of very personal, very human moments.
After Titanic sank, both Britain and the United States launched major investigations.
Those inquiries led directly to a sweeping set of new maritime safety regulations, later formalized as the SOLAS Convention, Safety of Life at Sea.
From that point forward, ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for every person on board.
Maintain 24-hour radio watch. And follow a newly created International Ice Patrol,
which still monitors the North Atlantic today.
In a very real sense, the safety systems built into every modern ocean liner trace their roots back to this one disaster. Titanic didn't sink because of one single mistake.
She sank because of ignored warnings, overconfidence, a design flaw no one anticipated, and a series of human decisions that compounded one after another.
A ship the world was told could never sink ended up proving something else entirely. No amount of engineering can fully protect against human overconfidence. And that's exactly why, more than a century later, Titanic's story still serves as a warning.